Well, since I just made a ranking for the 2025 films, I thought I would do the rankings of 2024 and 2023. Well, I made a comparison video about the movies of both of these years, so I thought I would just rank top 10 of my favorite films, starting with 2023. We will do 2024 for another video. Hey, in case that you ask, no, I am not doing the movies from the 2010s because it's going to be a lot of work and I have other videos ideas. And I'm probably not going to rank movies from 2020, 2021, and 2022 because there's not much movies that came out in these years, and that makes it so easy to choose my favorite and my least favorite. So with that being said, it's time to rank top 10 of my favorite movies from 2023. Just a little disclaimer, this ranking is opinions based, so please be civil and don't argue with me because 2023 was the year that has a lot of good movies, but it also had some bad ones. Like really bad ones, but it's just to keep in mind. With that being said, here are the best movies from 4 years ago. Alright, the first movie on the best list is Family Switch. Okay, I know it is a cliche Freaky Friday Christmas film, but I personally had a great time with this movie. The concept with the whole family switching bodies was fun, and also pretty weird. The comedy was great, and the character growth throughout the movie was also great, and it is probably my favorite Freaky Friday concept film. Alright, then we have the Ladybug movie. Well, I don't really watch this show, but the movie surprisingly had an impactful story through and through, especially it is an origin story, and it is probably a well-executed love story too. So overall, coming from the guy who is not into Ladybug, I was very entertained by this film, and that's why I included this movie on the best list. Okay, well, of course, I have to include Guardian of the Galaxy Volume 3 into the best 2023 films list. The story is great, especially for Rocket's emotional backstory, and the action was a cool part about this film. Well, although it is not much higher on the list, because it felt like that the movie was dragged on too long, and the comedy didn't really work for me. I just found the comedy in this movie pretty meh. But with that being said, it was a conclusion, especially for James Gunn's final Marvel film before working on DC Studios. So yeah, what a experience. Alright, Gran Turismo is on number 7. Well, despite being a slow-pacing movie, which I almost fall asleep watching, it was overall a well-executed story. It's emotional, it has some strong acting, especially it comes from David Harbour. Like, it's been a good time watching this movie, despite the 2 hours runtime. Well, I already talked about this movie in my top 10 best video games movie video, so you can go check it out if you want to know more of why I like this movie so much. Okay, then we have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Okay, I know it is not the best movie for everyone, but I personally enjoyed it. I thought King the Conqueror was a pretty decent threat in this movie, and he threatens Scott Lang's life and everything, and the dynamic between Ant-Man and his daughter was so fun to watch. And this is probably the first time I ever seen a parent and a kid teaming up in comic book movies. Okay, say what you will about this movie, but Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is underrated. Spy Kids Armageddon. Okay, Spy Kids is one of these franchises that I endured. Despite the terrible yoking CGI, they made a pretty fun trilogy. Well, the fourth movie was okay. And after that, they just stopped making Spy Kids movie. Well, until they returned with a fifth movie, and I gotta say, I was surprised. Spy Kids is back, and what do I think about the movie after watching it? Well, what do you think I put it on the best list for? They did the source material from the Spy Kids franchise, the CGI just gotten better, and the action was so unique in a way. Okay, well, the only things they didn't get right for me is the siblings dynamic. Carmen and Judy had siblings rivalry throughout the whole film, but they just learned to work together, and that's what makes the Spy Kid trilogy great. But this version of the Spy Kids never had any rivalry. Well, they do tease each other, but that wasn't enough. And Spy Kids Armageddon was basically the same plot of Spy Kids 3D. Because of the whole video game stuff, this is supposed to be like a parody to the first Spy Kids, but it was the first Spy Kids mixed with Spy Kids 3D. But overall, I had such a good time with this movie, and it was great to watch one of my childhood franchise again since 2011, and that's how this movie earns this spot of the best 2023 films. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Okay, it was a shame that this movie failed, because I personally thought it did a fine job. There's some high-stake tension to the story. Black Manta just got powerful in this movie because of the Triton, and he did almost kill someone. Well, although I did not like how they treated Orb as a punching bag in this movie. Oh, and Mera don't have much screen time compared to the first movie. So yeah, for what I see, it was a dang good movie. Well, of course, this movie would be on this list. Across the Spider-Verse was such a experience. Seeing all variant of Spider people, there are some pretty strong storytelling and emotional beats, and the animation just gotten better compared to the first movie. Well, I would take some point off because the pacing was very slow. But I can't wait for part 2 of Across the Spider-Verse. But hopefully Sony Pictures doesn't compromise this movie. If it didn't, then we will all be fine. Alright, you guys may not agree with me on this one, but I don't care. I found Blue Beetle to be very enjoyable. The story was well-paced and well-structured. It has the emotional core with some family stuff, and the action overall was just epic. Okay, well sure, it is a bit generic, and the character's growth was obviously drag slow, but it has a lot of heart put in it. Well, if that's not enough to convince you, then watch the movie for yourself. Even the bad guy, the main bad guy, gets his own emotional story in that film. Yoke, it might not be everyone's favorite movie of 2023, but I personally love this movie. Well, if you're looking for an overall emotional story in your comic book movie, then I would easily recommend watching Blue Beetle, and this is why I ranked it one of the best movies on the list. Alright, now it's time for number 1. Well, I made positive statements about this movie in my best video game movie rankings. Oh, and there's a Super Mario Bros. Movie sequel coming out in April of this year, so let's make this quick. Just say what you will, whatever you want. Illumination deserves some credit for making this movie, and they wouldn't pull it off if they didn't get everything right from the Mario games. Although I think the movie should be better if Luigi gets more screen time and not Blasty's licensed pop music during the movie, but I'm sure they're going to make up for it for the Galaxy movie. But with that being said, this movie was such a great time, and it makes me want to play the games again. And this movie technically made me feel like a kid again. Like the Super Mario Bros. Movie was such a great movie from start to finish. So, is it the best story of 2023? Not really per se. In fact, this title of the best movie story should go to Across the Spider-Verse, but I would consider it as the most fun storytelling in 2023 movies, and this is why it is the number 1 movie of 2023 in my opinion, and it is one of the best video game movies ever made. And I can tell that the Mario sequel, the Galaxy movie, is going to be awesome. And we're only 4 months away before the movie comes out, and I just can't wait. Well, that was it for this list, guys. Well, I was going to include the first Megan movie onto this list, well, since I got into Megan now, but unfortunately, it did not make it onto my best list, because the story and characters are just generic. The horror elements is not great, and Megan herself was the only decent part about this movie, which we can agree. So yeah, I hate to disappoint you guys. Okay, now as for my next video, I'm ranking the best films of 2024. Oh, and before you guys ask, no, I am not going to do the worst movie of 2023. I already torture myself making the worst 2025 movies, and I don't want to go through it again with a different video, so I'm just going to avoid it.